All right, I think we're live right now with Mason Phillips. Let me double check because we don't have any viewers yet, so we're good to go. Hold on. Let me check something real quick. Normally it gives me a 3, 2, 1 count, so we don't have that yet.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. Let me check something. All right, I think we are live. We actually have a viewer on now. So, Mason, thank you for joining us on our podcast. You know, like when I talked to you, I told you we just kind of wanted to touch bases with you and talk to you a little bit about your journey over the last couple of years of your high school career, coming and chasing your third state title, a couple international competitions, Super 32 champion. I guess, you know, first off, Mason, when did you start wrestling?
I first started wrestling in first grade. My parents were tired of me and my brother fighting in the house and in the living room and knocking stuff over, so they decided to throw us in the wrestling room and see if we could make something out of it. And just kind of took off from there.
Right on. And you're wrestling for Stanwood right now?
Yeah. So I'm back living in Stanwood. I'm going to finish my senior year here.
Okay. Well, that led me to my next question because I've heard rumors that you were going to Ohio. I heard you were getting your GED and going to University of North Carolina this year. I've heard about 6 different rumors about Mason Phillips. So the truth is you're in Stanwood.
Yeah. Yep.
And you're going to wrestle and go for your third state title.
Yeah, correct.
Awesome. Are you doing online school this year? Or are you actually in Stanwood High School?
No. Yeah, I'm back at the high school right now.
Okay.
So that's the plan.
Awesome. How's your team looking this year?
I think we'll be decent. I mean, I think the last couple of years we've had a young team, so we're kind of rebuilding right now, but we got some pretty good young guys coming up that should make a pretty big impact once we get to state. Riley Van Scoy took third last year as a freshman, so he should be looking to go after a state title this year, and he's only a sophomore. We got a couple other freshmen coming up, so I think we'll be decent. We should be doing good.
Good old Riley's put on some weight. What's he going to wrestle this year? About 160, you think, or? No idea yet?
No idea.
All right. Well, you don't have to spill the beans yet. That's okay. So let's take a journey over this summer. This summer, you've had a pretty exciting summer. I know you did some international travel. You're a Fargo champion, Greco. Why don't you give us a little bit of, give us a little bit of history about what this summer entailed for you.
It was a long summer. It all kind of started out last year, right after the high school state tournament. My main goal was to make one of the cadet world teams, either freestyle or Greco. And I knew I kind of needed to go get some really good training for the next couple months if that's what I wanted to do. So I've been good friends with Harry Lester for the last 5 or 6 years. We've built a pretty good relationship. And he offered to have me come stay with him for a little bit and train with him and try and make a world team. So that's what I did. And I switched over to online school and I moved out there to Ohio with him, and I was with him for about just training freestyle and Greco. And we were just getting ready for the world team trials. So when that came around, I was probably wrestling the best that I'd been wrestling. Made the Greco team. Didn't make the freestyle team, had some things happen, but learned from it, moved on from it. Still made the Greco team, so we had something to look forward to for the summer. And so after I won the trials, I just went straight Greco. Figured, there's no point in wrestling freestyle if I'm trying to win a Greco World title. So that's why I didn't wrestle freestyle at Fargo. A lot of people thought, I don't know what they were thinking, but people were kind of upset at me for not wrestling freestyle. They didn't get it. A lot of college coaches, I don't think, understood why I wasn't wrestling freestyle, but I pretty much just went to Fargo to kind of get like a tune-up for Worlds. You know, I couldn't go 3 months without not wrestling a good tournament before that. So I went and did the Greco tournament. I didn't really have too tough of a match until I got to the finals, where I had Alston. And that was really good for me because he's wrestled internationally and he's straight Greco, so that's all he does. And he's a really good Greco wrestler. So that got me a lot of things I need to start thinking about after that match. We're able to look back at it and see things I need to work on to get ready for Worlds. And then a couple more months went by, and we had Worlds at the end of August, I think it was.
Yep.
And yeah, so we went out to Greece. It was in Athens. That was my first time really international. I mean, I've been to Canada before, but I don't really count that. It was like half-hour away. So, but yeah, Athens was pretty crazy. First international tournament. It was just different. It was weird. It wasn't like the guys that we were wrestling were like just beyond our technique or anything. It wasn't like that. They're just a bunch of normal high school age kids that were just wrestling. The thing that kind of stuck out different about them, though, is they're real persistent. They didn't do a bunch of different crazy moves like a lot of people probably think they do. Most of them usually had like one move, but they just stuck with it the whole match. And that's what came across my match that I lost in. The kid had one move, and he stuck to it. And I slipped up one time, and he countered and capitalized on it and was able to get a lead I couldn't really come back from. So, but that's just comes with experience of wrestling those guys and knowing how they're going to wrestle you. So that was a good takeaway. I learned a lot wrestling in that. Just the experience wrestling overseas against international kids, it's definitely something to see. And aside from that, I mean, I stayed a couple extra days afterwards with my family out there, and we went around Athens and a couple of the islands, and we just had a really fun time.
So
that was good.
What was the highlight of being over there for you?
I mean, the tournament was cool. That was something I'd always wanted to go to. So I think just experiencing international wrestling firsthand. I mean, you can always see it on TV, but it's not the same as just being there. That was probably my favorite part about the whole trip, just experiencing the tournament.
Yeah. How was it living with Harry Lester for about 4.5 months when you were out there in Hawaii? What was your training schedule like there?
It wasn't I mean, it was intense, but it wasn't like I was just going 100 miles an hour every day. We had practice 3 or 4 times a week, but I was lifting I was usually getting a lift and cardio in every single day. And then 3 or 4 days a week, we'd have a mat practice. So we kind of spaced out our workouts so I wasn't overworking. And it wasn't just straight wrestling the whole time, too. I fit in pretty well with the guys on this team, so I was off hanging out with them, doing stuff a normal high school kid would do. He had 2 little daughters that kept me busy when I was at the house playing with them. So it was a lot of fun. It wasn't
kind
just
of a nanny.
Training. What was that?
You were kind of his nanny. That was the trade for training.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
I was the babysitter.
Right on. So obviously, the cat's out of the bag. You signed with University of North Carolina. Congratulations on that. Obviously, there were some other schools in the mix. Like I believe you told me once, Nebraska and a few other schools. Why did you choose University of North Carolina?
Yeah, there were a couple other schools I was talking to. I only ended up taking official visits to Oregon State and UNC. For some other reasons, I kind of narrowed the other 2 out, and it was between UNC and Oregon State. But really, I mean, it came down to our family is like a real big academic family. my parents are really big in academics, and Oregon had good academics, but UNC, I want to go to school for business and get a business degree, and UNC had one of the best business schools in the country. So that was a big part of it, but also just the coaches. Once I started talking to the UNC coaches, they treated me almost as if I'd known them forever. You know, I fit right in with them. Coach Scott, he's a great coach, and I think he fits my style a lot, and I think that's going to work really well. A lot of their coaches are around my size too, and they're still getting on the mat every day and wrestling with us, so I think that's going to be a huge benefit for us, wrestling Coach Scott and Coach Ramos. So that'll be really good. And then, I mean, the social life at UNC, you can't really go wrong there. No, that's going to be a fun school to go to. Chapel.
Well, stay away from those girls. Focus on wrestling.
70% of the student population's female, so it's going to be interesting.
Well, you already got the ratio down?
That's the first thing they told me when I got on campus.
Right on. That's funny. Well, that's cool. Well, so like I said, and you're aware of this a little bit because we've talked about this. One of the big things that we're actually making a push to do this year, Mason, is, you know, I was at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs a couple weeks ago. I had the privilege of being there with Ruben Navarez Jr. there in Seattle, as well as Jody Coleman from Ording. And we were sitting there on a Saturday night, just kind of sitting there talking. And I had told him a while ago I was really looking at doing a Who's Number One here in Washington, where we would try to get the best kids to wrestle in front of a live audience and do all those things. And so Jody was like, well, let's do it. And so I sent out a text to about 20 different coaches throughout the state that I actually have a personal relationship with. And every one of those coaches were like, let's do it. And so I started talking with a couple friends, Anthony Robles from Arizona State. He won a national title. Those who are watching, I don't know if you know who he is. He's the guy who wrestled for Arizona State. He has a one leg. And then Anthony Colica, who was one of our national team coaches this year, or clinicians at Riverview Bible Camp. He came out 3 different times this year and did some camps throughout our state. A good friend of mine. And we sent them a text and said, hey, would you guys be interested in coming out and coaching our kids? Because WIAA has a rule where our high school coaches can't coach our high school kids. And both of them said, heck yeah, we would love to come out and be a part of that and try to get something off to do that. So kind of one of our big announcements tonight with Washington State Wrestling is we're actually going to host a Washington Who's Number One. This event's going to be held right now. We're looking at Tahoma. We're waiting for Chris Weiss to get back to us to guarantee December 27th. That date is good to go. If not, we have a backup with Ording. Ording has and Jody was actually going to join us on this podcast tonight, but he's at the Garth Brooks concert with his wife. So we'll excuse him. I don't blame him for that. But I guess Brock or Mason, let me ask you a question. If there was one kid, because here in Washington, you know, we got some great 145 pounders, you being one, Christian Friend being another, and a handful of other ones. But if we could set something up for you to wrestle at this Who's Number One of Washington, somebody on the West Coast, nationally ranked, is there anybody particular that you would like to wrestle? Did you pause?
Yeah, it's like cutting out real quick.
Oh, okay.
All right, you're back.
Okay. Did you hear my question?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So on this Who's Number One that we talked about, you know, we have a handful of kids in Washington, but if we could set up a match for you at 145 for this Who's Number One, is there anybody on this West Coast that you would like to wrestle?
Yeah, I think there's one kid I've always wanted to wrestle. I think a lot of people would want to see it. I want to get Brock Hardy out here, wrestle.
Brock Hardy from Utah?
That'd be the one.
Well, you know, the funny thing about that is Brock Hardy actually wrestled for the same high school I wrestled at. And his coach, Mike Ripplinger, is one of my godfathers. I love the guy to death. I actually know Brock Hardy. Can I give him a call?
Get him on the phone.
Let's do it. Let's see what he says. Chime in. Well, let's call Brock Hardy right now and see if he's willing to come out to Washington and wrestle in this Who's Number One against Mason Phillips. The phone's ringing. All right. Yeah, so Brock Hardy actually wrestles for Box Elder out of Brigham City, Utah. His coach is Mike Ripplinger. The crazy thing about Brock, he's ranked, what, 4th in the country right now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And the crazy thing, I think with you winning Super 32, you may jump ahead of him. So that would be a pretty cool match to see.
Gotta make it happen.
Yeah. So let's see if he gets on here. Hold on. I'm trying him right now. It's ringing. Can you hear it ringing?
Hello.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
Hey, are you guys able to chime in for a second?
Yeah. We're just, I went to do it on my wife's iPad and don't have Google Hangout, so it's almost finished downloading. It's almost finished downloading. And then sorry. We were on Colton's laptop before the other day, so, but we'll be probably in a few minutes.
All right.
Almost finished.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll chime in.
All right. We'll see you in here in a second.
Okay.
All right. Bye. That was actually Chris Hardy, Brock's dad. They're jumping on the podcast with us here in a second. So they had to download this Google Hangout that we're on. So anyway, so Mason, so tell us about that Super 32. You just won that.
Yeah, so I've tried going to it the last 2 years, but something's always come up like the week or two before it, so I haven't been able to get out there. So it's pretty important that I got out there this year. I've always wanted to go to it and wrestle and get one of those belts. And I've been wrestling 138 over the summer, but I think I'm growing a little bit, and I just didn't really want to cut the weight. So I figured go up, try 145 and see how it goes. And I think I've found the best weight class for me now. Well, wasn't as sucked down for 145. I didn't have to cut too much weight for it. And I felt strong. And it was a pretty stacked weight. I was hoping to get Alex Lloyd in the quarters, but he got upset by a kid from Pennsylvania. Got past that kid. And then in the semis, I had a kid from Michigan. I think he won Fargo last year at the cadet level. Facundo. He was a tough kid. I mean, it was almost impossible to score on. He was just long, lengthy, strong. But double overtime, a ride out. We actually had to challenge the call. They had out of bounds, like the college out of bounds rules. And I got an escape with like 6 seconds to go. They'd blown it out of bounds, but I thought I had stayed in bounds. So I went and told Harry to throw the challenge. And they reviewed it and called that I was in bounds. So they gave me the one. And then that got me to the finals where I had Quincy Monday. And I didn't really know much about him. He hasn't really wrestled at any tournaments. So, I mean, he wasn't even ranked, and he beat two pretty highly ranked kids on his way to the finals. So I didn't really know what to expect. But I don't know. He kind of had one move, and once I figured that out, I just kind of rolled with it.
Well, I'm sure you kind of remember, but I was actually driving down the road watching your match on Flow. And I was like, challenge that. And came about that close to hitting the guardrail. Yeah. And then as soon as you guys won that challenge, I sent you that text. I'm like, dude, we're so proud of you. We're so happy. And I can't tell my wife I was actually like texting and driving at the same time, but I was like yelling at the screen. I'm like, he got away. But that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, hey, we got Brock Hardy on the phone.
What up?
What's up from Brigham City, Utah? How's it going?
It's going.
It's just going, Brock. It's good to see you, man. It's weird kind of talking to you from my old high school.
Yeah. Old BE.
I remember you from when you were in diapers, and now you're like a young man.
Oh, man.
So, hey, so the first time ever, Washington's actually hosting a Who's Number One here December 27th. And one of my favorite all-time wrestlers is Mason Phillips. I've had the opportunity for the last couple of years kind of watching him wrestle throughout and achieve some great success on the mat, off the mat. He comes from a great family. And I was talking to him the other day, and we were talking. I was like, at 145 here in Washington, I'd like to give you a match. Like, and as we started talking, I was like, what would happen if we got Brock Hardy out here? And he was like, I would love that match.
Yeah.
And I know you guys have never wrestled because generally Mason's a little bit lighter than you. You guys have always been you've always been one weight ahead of him.
Yeah.
And my brother and I had a little wager this year in Fargo, but Mason was at 138 and you were at 145. So that wager never came to fruition because you guys were at different weights. And I was talking to Mason the other day, and we were talking about, who we wanted to wrestle. And we felt you'd be a great challenge match.
Yeah.
So December 27th at Tahoma High School, Washington would like to invite you to come out and wrestle Mason Phillips.
I'd love to. That'd be sweet.
There we go. Mason, Brock, December 27th. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm pumped.
So
Good
number
deal.
4 in the country, number 7th in the country. Battling here at Tahoma High School, December 27th.
Yeah, Western boys.
2 Western boys, right? One signing with the University of North Carolina. And Brock, you just recently signed with the University of Nebraska, right?
Right.
Awesome. Congratulations on that. 2 D1 wrestlers coming here to Washington. Brock, do you have any tell us a little bit about your summer, I guess, real quick. Just so I think there's a lot of people in Washington that probably don't know who Brock is. I've followed you for the last 4 or 5 years, actually, just because, we're from the same high school.
Yeah.
And so what was this last summer like for you?
But it wasn't that good. I mean, I was injured up until late June. And so I didn't get to training for Fargo, and I wasn't able to go to junior duels or field of cadets. But I was training, and then I only had like 3 weeks of training going into Fargo, and then I was in that gauntlet weight of 145. I took 7th, and I did good. I mean, I revenged a loss from a Missouri kid, Mahler, who's committed to Missouri. But I mean, after that, I went right back into football. I went right into football right after Fargo, and so kind of my summer's been not as good as I wanted it to be, but stuff happens.
And you're chasing your 4 state title there in Utah?
Yep. Yeah.
Cool.
4 state title. Join your brother.
Good luck there, and we're excited to get you out here to Washington. Show you our stomping ground a little bit, Mason. It will be a great match. when we talk about, celebrating our sport, spreading awareness, and really building something here in our state, I think getting you two on the mat together will be something spectacular, something a lot of people will want to see. And I look forward to it. Brock, I want to thank you for joining us real quick. I know it's a Sunday afternoon. You're getting ready to wrap things up for your weekend. And Mason, both of you guys, thank you so much. Have you guys ever really met?
I think we've talked a couple times, but like not.
Yeah, not much.
Yeah. Been like hey, how's it going, man?
Well, I can speak for both of you guys. You guys are cut from the same cloth. Both of you guys are silent leaders. Both are two kids that people look up to and aspire to become like. I know Mason, my son, idolizes you. You're a kid that he talks about a lot. Brock, unfortunately, he doesn't know who the hell you are yet. But I look forward to introducing him to you. So anyway, December 27th, here we go. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, I'm pumped.
Awesome. Well, guys, I want to thank both of you guys. I got another conference call here in 20 minutes, but we look forward to seeing you guys here December 27th. And Mason, thank you so much for joining us here on Washington State's podcast this weekend. If there's anything we can do for you here in the next couple of weeks, let us know. But we look forward to watching you guys wrestle.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
All right. Well, tell Mike Ripplinger I said hello. Tell your father I said hi. And we'll see you guys here in a couple months.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mason. And again, Washington State, thank you for everything. And here we go. Washington, December 27th, we have an all-star duel featured match, Mason Phillips versus Brock Hardy from Utah. And until next time, we'll talk to you later.